Friday, May 1st, 10:31 a.m. What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. You know what time it is. It's about that time of the week where all the hardworking Americans get ready for the weekend. But we still don't have constitutional rights over here, so popping back on for a little more commentary on the markets. So picking up where we left off yesterday, as you can see, we did not get the expectation we had for SanDisk. So they reported strong numbers. We expected a reaction to the upside. I guess we did get this extremely quick fleeting candle right here, but that it wasn't even really what I was talking about of a very big appreciation and then sort of trading. We went down. And so we did not get an entry that we were looking for. So as you can see, we did not take a position. Strong numbers, no stock split announced, but a share buyback was announced. So in addition to the price action, we have concurrent movement or action from the management of SanDisk to say, hey, good indication that this at least from their decision making is a strong trend. They see it going into the future. And so no share split or stock split, but other concurrent action to say, hey, this rally has more legs. Before we talk more about SanDisk, just popping over to Google, the other big four that reported, again, popped up, stayed up. Again, just kind of getting the overall trading environment of other companies that have reported recently. Again, within technology, within AI, but not super relevant to memory, Seagate and Micron being more direct analogs to SanDisk. But again, some mixed reactions, some up, some down. We had Google, Meta, Microsoft next, and then there's one other one. But so kind of a mixed reaction, some trade, break to the downside. Microsoft kind of went sideways, kind of down on the next day, but no real indication. And then over to SanDisk, we'll check back in with Seagate, STX. And so no real sell-off. So just kind of recalibrating our conviction. I don't think, first of all, we're popping back over to SanDisk specifically, getting an environment of the sector. We kind of had, again, back here in the appreciation from the 200 land to 500 to 700 land, the price action to sentiment disconnect felt like there was volatility potential to the downside. Now, over here, not thinking so much. And so did not take a position for today. Going off our perspectives, what we articulated yesterday, we did not get the entry. But overall, we did not get a severe reaction either way. And so to me, this was just, hey, earnings reports are typically the most, policy might be the one-off, but not considering policy from a president or from a Congress or some sort of unexpected policy change, earnings reports are the stock-specific most stimulating for a given ticker. And so, meaning we don't see a big reaction, so we're thinking this trend's pretty intact. And so no opinion to the downside. To the upside, I'm definitely not going to take a position. But again, the overall market capitalization number to trend strength is not off-putting. So I'm definitely not buying it, but I'm definitely not super short, not short at all, but I have zero conviction really. And so again, overall market is just, again, I don't really have a conviction right now on anything. So we're kind of just churning, seeing what we're talking about on CNBC. And then overall, again, not really taking big positions. And so that was the takeaway or kind of synopsis for SanDisk. Still on the radar, but we don't have really a big volatility expectation over here and no conviction at all. And so kind of just on the radar, we'll be on the watch list, but just kind of seeing what happens from here. Elsewhere, CF, this was another prospectus that I executed to a very small level today. Just kind of the generality and then the specific trade. All right, we have something, CF, which I'm not even sure what that stands for, but this fertilizer company that has what I think is again a pretty solid correlation to causation that this war interaction conflict has caused this recent appreciation, pretty much all of the price action north of 100. And so we've had waning, we're into month 2. Each headline has less effect. We see that I think it's pretty evident in the price action. that just whatever, no matter how severe a headline is, as time goes on, people just digest it and they get used to it. On a personal level, you cry, you run out of tears. On the market, you just stop, you cry wolf, you stop reacting. And so that's what I think we're seeing effectively in the price action. And so, hey, we have some stimulus where overall I do have a small conviction. I do think this will go down. We do have earnings going into next week. We do have a dividend on May 15th over here. Not a sector or industry that I've traded a lot or followed a lot, no real medium or long-term convictions. But we have stimulus, it seems elevated, and then we have effectively no trading. And so to me, this is where it makes sense. We have a pretty wide spread, currently 12 cents, but at the open it's like 40 to 60 cents to try to trade the spread, where if we have elevated in the background, no stock-specific stimulus on a given day, the morning when we talk about this 9:30 to the Gucci main time of 10:17, we have elevated volume. And so we've seen pretty consistently, without further headlines about the war, just this morning trade, we appreciate a little bit or just have morning volume in which kind of pushes the price action up, and then it pretty much fades pretty consistently. So you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, this one would probably be the weakest, 5, 6 kind of days in a row. Now the overall trade would be, again, if some sort of new headline comes out, you're going to get a sharp reaction, one way or the other. We're overall short convicted, so we would want to be short here. But not something I have a high conviction on, but just in general, again, you take something that it's disjointed from where you think or it's normal or it's recent channeling. You'd try to find something that wants pretty sideways, that you think could go down or up. We're short bias, so we're going to talk the short side. Find something that's channeling, that just has some sort of appreciation or some sort of push from the morning trade, just from the overall volume of 9:30 to 10:17. And so short over here on CF. And so we would look to short into any of these things, and we followed this kind of CF specifically kind of being this dead rock. We have some sort of reaction to the headlines, but it's not really trading overall. And so I think you would even have a stronger, if you have a ticker or a stock that's actually trading strong, but in a channel, you would even get a more pronounced or predictable movement. Again, not rocket science, certainly an overall strategy that I've heard articulated elsewhere, but CF seems to be one of these trading the spread over the open seems to make sense. So we did that to a small level here, had 5 whole shares already covered, but again, we had some elevated volume in the morning, shorted at 125 and change, had another 5 shares at like 125.50 that did not fill, but made $3 a share just on what I think. Again, I have no way to prove this, but hey, morning volume kind of fades, no stimulus, overall elevation in the background. It's just going to fade into a Friday. And so that was kind of my thought. That's why I entered the trade. That's why I closed the trade already. $16. We could almost go down to one of those shoddy overpasses in Columbus, Ohio. And I've used that joke a bunch. Probably got to move on from that one. But that's overall what's going on with SanDisk and CF, our kind of focuses in this trade log that we've been going. Overall, I have no real positions on stock-specific trades. As long as I'm watching the markets, seeing what's going on, looking to find something new or something that I have conviction. Because once you have conviction, that's when you do, hey, I think it could go here based on all of these different factors. I think it could go down to here based on all of these different factors. Then I'm going to take a position size that makes sense to my risk tolerance. Still, overall, my risk tolerance is effectively 0 because, once again, I still do not have constitutional rights. And there are no laws in this country. But that's where our focus was. And so kind of getting to the point of yesterday, I wanted to return to the concept of a real job or real money. And it's just, again, this psychological awareness that, hey, a real job allows me to move out of a parent's house would be, like the biggest first step for any one individual. Hey, you're born into an environment, whether it's a parent or just, again, even like governmental assistance, but just, hey, I'm consuming resources. I'm a person buying food or consuming food, using gas, using public transportation, whatever. Somebody's paying for this. Where does this money come from? That's personal finance on everybody's journey. And so, hey, you become 15 to, 20, and it's like, hey, I'm going to be an adult in the near future, right? This college or even high school, this shit lasts for like 4 to 8 years. Where is this money coming from? How do I pay for it? And I was always very early on like, okay, this stuff, nothing is free. I knew that from a very early age, but no, let's just go to school and play games for a while. And then college comes and we destroy Brad's constitutional rights, ruin his reputation, now go get a job. It's like, you can't. Like, I'm the victim of crime. But point being is you have this awareness of personal finance, of things cost money, and can I make enough money to sustain that? And then you're born into whatever quality of life you have. Can I sustain the life that I've had or more? I can't imagine there's anybody out there that does not want more quality of life than what they're born with, regardless of extreme affluence to literally government assistance or on the side of the road. Hey, I'm using some amount of resources. I need to sustain that at a minimum, and I want overall to be rewarded for my value, what I create for society. There's literally zero things wrong with just, minding your own business, working a job, 30 grand to 50 grand a year. You cover your expenses, mind your own business. That's perfectly all morally great. And so for wanting more wealth past necessity is kind of, you should be rewarded for the value you create. And that should be the business world as I sit over here without constitutional rights. It's kind of salty over here for Brad. It's like, oh yeah, everyone else gets to play business, but not the guy with the property rights for all of education. I think that would be quite a big dollar figure, and it's sitting on your computer, right? That would be called extortion, right? Tort, the right to seek compensation for damages, and you are extorting me. That's actually directly, literally true. And you're doing it in an organized group as law enforcement. That is the RICO statute. That is directly, literally RICO. So just let that ruminate for all those hardworking Americans in law enforcement. I hope you're watching this video. Still, the law is just sitting right up there. Words have meaning. They're well defined. Legality is one of the first things developed in ontology. Right? Extortion is the opposite of tort. But getting a real job, now I just returned to a story when I was a server at a country club and just hearing this family, a kind of conversation that I've heard, I would say is a standard American conversation or just a labor market conversation. It's just a real job comes from somebody you don't know, right? I was just sitting there serving people at the country club, and there's this family, dad, mom. They're at a country club, certainly some sort of financial success. They're sitting there with their young adult kids, probably, again, not eavesdropping, but they're talking about college. One of the daughters is going off to college. One of the brothers has already graduated from college. And the dad's sitting there proud of his family. Hey, Susie, you're going to go be the doctor that's going to, cure cancer. And, Billy, our son, he's out there being the business manager or whatever. And it was just throughout their conversation, you could hear it was like she was entering the labor market. Well, I think she was going to college and the son, like I said, was leaving college, or he was more in the labor market. But they were talking about getting a job. And the father just expresses some sort of sentiment of again, I forget the exact verbiage, but getting a real job is getting validation from somebody that isn't nepotism, right? That isn't your family or your friend giving you a handout. There is this psychology, there is this sentiment of, hey, there's validation from somebody that doesn't know me saying, yep, here is a job, here is a paycheck, here is real money for a real job, and it didn't come from nepotism. It's a real sentiment that's there, but it just has me scratching my head everybody's doing that, right? Everybody's in their own little family unit talking about going to get jobs, and it's just the other family units. And so, why is there more validity to having some random guy or girl or woman that has no idea who you are give you a job as more validating than somebody within your own immediate community? A weird facet of sentiment, but a real job is when you make real money from not somebody you know. Kind of weird shit. The immediate counter logic, I guess you would say, is that, nepotism is a thing. You don't want to get just handed a job without merit, which I would agree with. But at the same time, there's no more real job from that hiring manager that doesn't know you versus that guy that does know you. And it's a very common sentiment that I hear expressed. And so part of this competition, we want to compete, be the winner. It's unfair if you get it from somebody you know, but in reality, it's just wherever value is created, that's where the jobs are at. And so it's weird sentiment, wanted to point it out, wanted to talk about it. And so We have the gas national average has hit $4.39. Here locally, again, my gas budget is zero. I've literally been actively riding my bike, which has been surprisingly like a decent mode of transportation. Again, the continental United States is a rather big geographic area. If you're across the pond or in another country where you have public transit, again, New York has big public transit. I would imagine Los Angeles, Chicago, but I'm not in one of those big hubs, the suburbs of Ohio, of the capital of Ohio, Columbus. And so, but I've been impressed. Like I can get on my bike, ride my bike for 20 minutes, and I can get to most things of where I want to go in like the suburbs. And so, always again driving a motorized vehicle, both from a safety hazard, which I'm not really like worried about a car accident, but it is the most dangerous thing you get into. Certainly a risk, very real risk. But not like it affects my day-to-day movements. But I would live in an area where I would not have to have a vehicle, a motorized vehicle, maybe have like an ATV or something for like a farmland. But I'm not a big fan of cars, like just like the overall even like sound, just being in an environment where it's quiet. Not that I'm like averse to loud sounds. For whatever reason, I just like, if I did not have to have a motorized vehicle, I would not. Personal preference, but just a thought or just something I throw out there. Regardless, the gas prices are high, absolutely ludicrous. I mean, this is like a 4 or 5 year high. We're getting close to national average at $4.39, locally $4.89. Again, I'm not in a high cost of living area. And so that's just, yeah. Again, and then Pete Hegseth's up there like, oh, maybe our next objective is to get the enriched uranium. I thought that, like, they put it up there like on CNBC. It was some war strategist, what the United States might do next. I thought that was like the first thing. And so now the imminent threat's not really there. Are we going to get the uranium? Are we even sure on our intel there? Oh, how are we doing, Department of War? Oh, that's right. We just pick our favorite frat bros, slick back our hair with extra hair gel that he got from Tim Seymour. Pretty sure Pete Hegseth buys his hair gel from Tim Seymour. And so, yeah, that's going on. Again, age is just a number. You put a bunch of celebrities and give them a title. People respect the overall edifice of the United States government, and then you have some buffoon in there just playing frat bro. Shout out to Pete Hegseth. And Kash Patel, bro. I hope all of again, what did we say? Valhalla, or yeah, you'll see Charlie Kirk in Valhalla. Again, that's not a death reference. That's just seeing our chief of the FBI just saying, we'll see you in Valhalla, and just like you have a bunch of frat bros running the government. And so, gas national average, again, my gas budget for the past, poverty life, adulthood has been nothing. And so, but I just don't see, again, we have not accomplished anything, obviously. Moving along, nothing really new on the news or on the war front. But Carl Cantanilla makes a point this morning. 6 companies account for 70% of earnings increase. So this is one of the aspects where it's like, if you have no background in finance and people say, invest, they'll pretty much just tell you to buy an index fund, which overall, again, the sentiment it captures, because you cycle the companies, it captures the overall momentum of a sector, which in this context, a sector is the overall, again, I want to say the S&P 500 is just United States, but you can buy indices from international exposure. You can buy a whole slew of different indices. And so indices, to me, in general, they're constructed to capture momentum. And they cycle so you can continue to capture that momentum. So the old adage of, stocks tend to go up, I would agree with. Underlying fundamental being the population. People are hopeful. That's why things trade at forward earnings. But then the very real question is like, is the S&P just going to go up indefinitely forever? It's like one of the first things that I thought was like, okay, people just operate on this. Stocks tend to go up, which they do, but it's because of population. You never really hear that articulated. It's extremely simple. There's not any thought to it, really. And then, but just the overall, why would an index continue to go up when, again, clearly individual stocks go up more so, right? Look at all the momentum. Like, that's what we're shorting, is this extended momentum trends that then break down. And so it's like, why would the S&P go up indefinitely if all of the composition, spikes and then drops? It's because it cycles. And that overall life cycle of a company having momentum and growth having a growth cycle, is really what an indice is trying to capture, which I think is for the foreseeable future, several lifetimes into the future, is going to be the continued dynamic. Will that taper off or plateau at some point or change the dynamic to somehow? Inevitably. Do I see that as a relevant economic conversation for our lifetimes? No. We'll see how it plays out going into the future, simply meaning population increase correlating to overall indices increasing because of forward-looking psychology. I see as, again, plateauing at some point, but steadfast for now. And so, to Carl's point of saying, it's concentrated, and Sarah Eisen literally uses the word concentrated. Yep, it's concentrated, and again, this overall just feels like Sarah Eisen wants to say stocks are going up. And it's like, okay, okay. But it's just like they want, it's like bald eagle starts screeching again. So as long as I can say the stocks go up, the American dream is intact. And it's just like you can buy the index, and then it's like you can buy an individual stock and it crashed 80%, and then people are still on TV, sentiment's going up, the indices are up, and you've lost 80% of your wealth, right? And so it's just this weird disconnect of just saying, as long as I, the host of CNBC, or anybody in the finance world can echo the sentiment, stocks are going up, the American dream's intact, the bald eagles are screeching, and I can just scream freedom, and it's just seeping, freedom is just pouring over me. Again, pouring over is the thing that is getting dropped over the other thing. Yeah, it's just another one of those pouring, P-O-U-R-I-N-G. I know we articulated this in math class directly, but if you pour over something, it's like pouring maple syrup over pancakes. The thing that is pouring is the thing that is moving, not the thing that is receiving. Right? I have pores in my skin. I pour over. Yeah, you get it. Okay. And so the 70% earnings revision, or from 6 companies, again, to the overall emphasis, again, that's just, it is what it is. I mean, if those 6 companies revise down, and the indices will follow suit. But I just wanted to comment again on this. Again, financial host of TV shows, as long as they can personally echo the sentiment, hey, I can say the word stocks are going to go up, we're going to lower the interest rates, stocks are going to go up, and just like this echoing of like the American dream, more so than like some sort of like advice for your viewership to watch and to make decisions on which stock should I buy. And so it's just like, this weird juvenile American nationalism. And so 6 companies accounting for 70% of the earnings increase. Again, right, the things that are growing, I mean, there's only so many things that are growing out there in the economy. And so what Carl just kind of, again, it is what it is. That's just a statement of empirical evidence. Sarah's reaction is kind of this juvenile, I love America bullshit. But the 70, I don't see it as a problem in the sense that, like, Carl's trying to make the point that it's like it's too concentrated. And to me, this is just, it is what it is, right? The indices are designed to capture the growth companies. The growth is only happening where demand is happening, right? And so it's like, to me, you're always going to have concentration of growth, and subsequently you're always going to have concentration of indices. And so, yeah, right, if they revise down and these 6 companies, revise down, the indices will take a big hit. And so, but that's just kind of like the nature of, to me, that just, it is what it is. And commenting on their commentary as much as I can. But we had Jeremy Siegel, our great professor. He's actually kind of a jolly fellow, an older chap, an older fellow of the markets, but an extreme criminal because he's an academic. And so, but I heard the word rate hikes. Haha, poor people, poor people, poor people. Again, just kidding. I have no net income. Truly, I live at my parents' house. I just applied for Medicaid yesterday because I have lost income forever in my entire life, and I've never been received just compensation for private property, demonstrably used for public use. I can show you the clips of Carl and Andrew, and just no one cares, and there's no one to send it to, and nothing to do. And then Kash Patel, again, is talking about Valhalla, and then I have literal clips of me going to the FBI office as a calm, normal citizen saying, hey, can I report crime? And they're like clearing their belts and they're getting all uncomfortable and they're like, we know who you are. We're not going to help you, because they've been clearly told they can't interact with me. And it's a direct violation of the law. Again, to the law enforcement agents that I've interacted with personally, the law is still sitting there. You're still in violation of the RICO statute, and keep that same energy. When you guys are all sitting there in the comm station or the briefing room or whatever the fuck you guys call it, And you're all in there, and you're going after a really bad guy, and you're all gearing up, locking up, racking up, ready to go. It's just like, you guys are the criminals. There is your laws. Extortion, racketeering, conspiracy. Proven from first principle, too. And again, remember, you can't prove things that aren't true. You have to give me my money at some point. But I really have no expectation that will ever change. Like, truly, at my point, my psychology is if I can just stabilize income enough, literally living at my parents' house, even if I get extorted again directly from the IRS and they steal my money, right, I can still work. And that's all I've been trying to do my entire life. But I've been forced to play the game of school and all of this other bullshit that does not affect or is not applicable to my life experience. But rate hikes with Jeremy Siegel, yes, we're going to the moon. And again, truly from a financial, if I was the head of the Federal Reserve right now or the Fed of the IMF, or like what is the biggest detriment or disruption that could occur across the global markets because we have this sequestering nation states and they all have their own money printer and you can still have quality of life within that economy. Inflation is the biggest hot pot for any single country, not just the United States, everybody. And so that's the economic principle, what that looks like for policy. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know that I've seen all the data or that I've executed enough management from, again, a monetary Federal Reserve Treasury standpoint to really have real insight. But it's not complicated. You're right. You just don't spend more than you take in. And when you're working with a national budget, it's different. And then when you have the ability just to turn on currency, it's different as well. And you guys don't even articulate. I mean, you guys do not. There is nobody in the financial world that articulates merit and knowledge more than me. It just, I mean, any aspect. And again, all of these results from language are independent of one person. And so then we're back into this world of competition, and life is not a fucking game. If you have one person that can prove all of this shit, and you guys just run around having no idea what you're doing, everybody loses. And look around. That's the world you built. Thanks, boomers. But rate hikes, again, even as somebody that's, again, poor people, ha, ha, ha. Rate hiking limits inflation a little bit. And then just the overall creation of dollar bills is the thing that limits inflation the most. And then overall economically, the most detrimental thing you can do to a nation state to disrupt a whole economy is runaway inflation. And so I like to see the sentiment echo that, hey, we're trying to keep inflation in control. What exactly you do? I'm not going to sit over here and say I have the secret book. Raising interest rates does have a net effect to the downside, but again, it also limits this expansion. Hey, I'm going to go create a factory that might make me an extra 5%, as opposed to the business operator who's literally pouring out so much value that it definitely makes sense to expand. And so lowering the interest rates does not stimulate demand, and an operator taking on a loan is not good money management, not good business development. I've said it a bunch. We hit it every single time, but we talk about it like every 2 seconds. And so I'm for rate hikes if they make sense. But again, overall, I think the actual rate limit, again, it's more of the demand story as opposed to when you should expand from a business operation point. The rate level for a mortgage, again, you don't need to have a house to have a quality of life. It's another aspect of this. Right, I've made the comment, I hated having a house, but again, I don't have constitutional rights. I would absolutely want my own living environment if I could live there comfortably. But again, that's the whole thing, is financial stability. Your living environment is one aspect of financial stability. And to have financial maturity, hey, right, I need to do this, I need to pay for this, is a well-defined thing. And so I'm making these videos as somebody without constitutional rights for people who are, again, pathetic as shit probably, that just don't work hard. So that's my thoughts on rate hikes. Overall good thing, but the positive for limiting inflation is more so not tempting somebody to take on an expansion that they don't need or that they're kind of forcing, more so than the actual dollar figure or 4% versus 3.75%. Again, with the added asterisks that I've not ran the IMF, I've not ran the Federal Reserve, I've not sat there and made decisions where it's like, hey, but again, all of the economic data just gives you clear next moves. I mean, there's no real, when I do an analysis, there's no conjecture at all, ever, at any point. We might have to take a doggy break. Oh, he got out. And so the overall collective, you take people with financial maturity that are genuinely trying to do the overall, again, even if the dual mandate doesn't change, just that verbiage, maximum employment, I don't like that verbiage. Minimum inflation, I like that, but more focus on the printing more so than the interest rate. But if you have mature adults in the room trying to do the right thing for the economics, right, the data points to what you do. It's not a decision-making thing. And then overall, my whole analysis process of everything I do, even in my direct personal behavior, there's no conjecture. And you've never met somebody like that before. And it's not big secretive things. It's just once something is wrong, you can't do it. Go to school and say 1 + 1 = dark energy. Couldn't do it. It's wrong. It's not like morally wrong. It's inefficient. It's just no. Go look at the people winning the Nobel Prize. Oh, don't follow what everybody else says. Do your own thing. So why would I follow Brian Keating, who's over there bitching about not getting the Nobel Prize, when in reality, it's, again, the whole physics world is just nothing. Physics and linguistics has never been articulated what it is. Mathematics is a little bit of something. Business is hands-on. Music is hands-on. History is when you get rich or old. That's the education structure for you. Not the point of this video. Rate hikes, that's my thoughts there. And then the final talking point is we have a new Berkshire CEO. And Charlie Munger passed on a little ways ago, died on a weird hill of no crypto, even though you're already demonstrating clear not understanding of the environment you live in. But we have the new CEO, Greg Abel. And so I don't know Greg, me and Greg didn't catch him at Wharton or Harvard myself. Different class. But focusing on his name from our linguistics yesterday, right? Abel is almost like it's label without an L. Oh, wait, it is directly. It's because it's a geometric identity. It's a fundamental iteration of that A and E with the geometric parallel lines of the L. It's all of these names. It's hilarious. But, right, the Abel Prize in Mathematics, Greg Abel, Cain and Abel. Anybody seen any consistency through our storytelling and history yet? It's almost like words have meaning, and it's consistent. Again, my rights continue to be violated. Those are the thoughts I have for the economic talking points today. And remember, to get you a real job, to make real money from that guy over there, because that makes sense to people in America. That's what I have for now, and I will check in later. Friday, May 1st, 5:28 p.m. What's up, everybody? Couple closing thoughts for the week. Did not trade anything after that quick closure on CF from the morning trade. We currently have SanDisk pulled up on your screen. So as you can see, throughout the morning, we popped up a little bit, kind of traded flat to where we closed at yesterday, and then we took a substantial move up. As you can see to the right of my screen, I did not take a position at all. And so, going to be following this closely, but trading really strong, no real volatile move immediately after earnings, and then into the afternoon we closed strong, and so something to keep an eye on. But maybe I was kind of thinking, the thought crossed my mind, this short one at the very end. I do think this will have a pullback in the immediate term off of this earnings appreciation, but I did not take any position and will not plan to. If we wake up on Monday and this is up next to 1250 or appreciating any more, we might, for an opening into Monday, this might be a single share short position. But for now, just following it. Again, the big appreciation kind of gives us this indication of volatility. We haven't really seen that. I mean, frankly, for all things considered, being up 3,000+%, this is traded pretty naturally. And so, no position throughout today. Just following it on our earnings. We were not correct this morning on the setup, and just something that sat on the watch list throughout the day. And so, no other real portfolio constructions. Small position on Joby that is up. Gemmy did inch a little bit more. All things Joby were up over $100 now. Gemmy inched back up to our entry price. Look at that. And so I think this might have a little turnaround potential. Super small positions, but overall markets indices, the QQI, which is again built on the NASDAQ, no position, kind of kicking myself a little bit. Again, sold it a little too soon, but just my overall thought for this is, what price levels, how often has it traded above a price level that it's currently at? And so had some capital appreciation, didn't want to close it as low as it was. That was kind of a fluke volume thing that just Bad luck Brad over here. Classic great trading. But close these with, again, a couple $100 of appreciation. Would have been $300 to $400 more. I think there will be some retracement off of this, and then when there's some sort of finality to the war or whatever, again, I'm still lightly thinking that there's just heightened activity in general. Something's going on, there's buzz in the room, and then just overall lessening of that activity will have some sort of like softening effect. Very, very light conviction, again, just overall on the indice commentary. And so we'll trade these. Like I said, I think this will be a good, some sort of strategy on day trading these with, again, available cash that if it just doesn't go great, you can just literally sit there for the dividend. And so that's definitely a thought. Not sure on the strategy here, but just on any down day, any sort of just short-term relief pressure, even being able to take a day trading, using some of the day trading buying power. I will double check, but I don't think there's any fees associated. As long as you don't hold it overnight or something, or gonna just exactly what it is, because it's available funds for trading. But as long as we don't have to pay any interest, we'll see. This could be a good little day trading strategy. We will see. The markets overall, I think the S&P pop on over here. Just do the S&P, not the S&P/YI. So this did close, I guess, down, but still at highs, but down from the open. And so I think there'll be some sort of light retracement. I don't know. But again, picking stocks more specifically than just overall indice. That's my thoughts there for the overall market. For our talking points, I don't think there was anything else. DFTX made a little appreciation off of that decline from the executive order. And so I think we'll see more positive policy movements there, but nothing really else to say on our positions. And so I did look at American Eagle again. This had retraced off of 20. Did not take a position throughout, since we've last commented on it. Would have been a good little trade, but still no real conviction. Just letting things churn a bit and get a new idea next week or whenever something comes up. For our talking points to close the week, we had the Artemis II NASA space team joining Carl and Sarah, and the female astronaut said, if we all work together, or if we all, we could get something to paraphrasing, we could get so far if we work together, if only more people had this awareness. Again, literally going into a space pod, going into space and seeing how small the Earth is, as Carl Sagan, our pale blue dot. But in reality, again, I was just sitting over here ironically like, yeah, look at Carl and Sarah who stole my research, celebrating the great work and progress of science with our astronauts who are in no way, shape, or form briefed on the actual space exploration. They're the furthest astronauts in space. That's not true. Hate to break it to you guys. Not even close. But yeah, we're all going to, again, still throw this big public facade whenever, again, it's like the biggest analysis has been sitting on the internet derived with public videos with undeniable proof for like we're going on a long time now. But hey, we're still going to run this complete fraud, racketeering conspiracy, do it publicly. Sorry, not sorry, CNBC, you're all going to prison. It's truly disgusting to sit here and say, oh yeah, look at that guy's scientific discovery. Look at that scientific progress. And it's pure fraud and just like this. Again, what you see on TV for fundamental physics, for technological innovation, for space travel is effectively, again, the kids at high school running the bake sale for a weekend thinking they run the school. They don't. But all of the people in public who just don't care about anything besides committing fraud, they just keep piling on the charges, keep piling them on. All those hardworking Americans that do nothing besides lie, cheat, and steal. It's classic. Because again, when is fundamental physics going to change, guys? Is that going to change in like a year, 10 years? How about 1,000? How about 1,000,000? Ooh, that's a long time. How about 1,000,000,000 years? Wow, that's how much staying power my estate has. So, yep, we can do whatever we want for now. Well, I guess for whatever reason, you continue to decide to destroy my life, ruin my health, ruin my relationship with my parents' family, not allow me to have a career. Most disgusting shit in the world, and I truly think more disgusting than the people doing that is how many people are sitting around watching it happen and saying nothing. Total fucking pussies, absolute cowards, and complete criminals. Again, if you've received a professional licensure from one of these academic institutions, truly at any point past February 2017, you are directly benefiting from a racket at like the highest level, and there is nothing my estate's going to do besides prosecute those people. So again, I emphasize at some point somebody pay me some money, you get some amnesty, truly, because all I want and all I'm trying to accomplish is to improve my quality of life, which is at zero, which has always been at zero, and which remains at zero. And we are almost done with all of science again. But that is good to see Carl and Sarah again celebrating the great progress of science, even though it's just all a big facade. And again, Carl, it's good to be king, not in the morning. He gives you a chance. Sorry, Carl, you're going to prison, bud. Anyway, we had another, again, just one of these expressions from either not a host, but a very frequent contributor, Malcolm Eldridge, one of the younger contributors for sure. I want to say he can't be too much older than me. Clean-shaven black dude, but he gets up there, we're talking our stocks again, and he says, I'm not a technician. Again, literally to anybody that's, again, on CNBC or a money manager, like, I don't even get, like, it's very literally your job, and how do you enter positions? Like, okay, do you just buy randomly on a given day? Well, no, we buy at this time. Okay, well then, what time of the day do you buy? And so I don't see how you get into a position where you manage money and then you enter a position or exit a position and you don't become a technician, because that's what you have to, like, it's like just like the thing you would do. And so it's just so strange to see people that literally, it's like their literal job being like, well, I'm not going to do my job. It's like, how else do you try to time your entries? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. But just a strange kind of sentiment. Again, we commented on that type of thing recently. We had another regular contributor. I just have Victoria Green Talks Funny. So another really important economic point, but just she comes on a lot, and she just has I don't know if it's just her natural presentation. I don't know if she's not opening her mouth a lot, or just as she talks funny. And so I just have a white chick, big body, and that's how you can identify her. And then our last kind of talking point is just more of one of these political things. I'm not really running that series right now, so I'll throw it in there. This Trump's letters. This is such, again, the edifice of jurisprudence, which is now the lore of tort, literally correctly. But it's a shame, truly globally. Again, the concept of having lawyers define laws for war is hilariously, like, it's ghoulishly stupid. And then people play into it like they're doing some good, great diplomatic service. It's like, I'm going to negotiate, and we're going to have our lawyers negotiate killing a bunch of people. It's like, what in the fuck are we talking about? But, you know, that's kind of, again, this bullshit facade, worthless system people just buy into and talk about, when in reality, just lie, cheat, and steal, get into a group that benefits you. Good enough for me. Like I said, it's almost the weekend. Time to go get our privileges. But Trump sends these letters to Congress saying that he's like, this is officially all conflict with Iran has been terminated, as some sort of time frame for operating without congressional approval for a quote-unquote war. And so now we're doing, again, this legal dance around precedent. What word means war? And we're going to dance around this to play legality so we can keep doing this. When in reality, a war is, let's just wipe out XYZ. That's what war is. That's what you're trying to accomplish. To dance around that in any way, to play politics with life in any way, is a profound abomination. Again, Donald Trump does not represent a commander-in-chief. Pete Hegseth does not represent any sort of commander of war. It's goofy and it's fucked up. And then, again, I put the biggest blame on all the people lying about fucking everything. But overall, from a legal standpoint, it's an abomination to even as is if you, again, respect Congress or the United States Constitution, which, again, nobody does. But if you do, which you don't, seeing this dance around from congressional approval where, again, if you wanted to go to war and have the approval of your constituency, meaning the American people or whatever nation state you're a part of, the support would have to be so profoundly overwhelming. Again, Ukraine getting attacked by Russia. Hey, we're literally just sitting here like we're just defending ourselves. It's not even like a question. But from a commander-in-chief point, I would absolutely concede land to save lives. Meaning, if I was in Zelensky's place, I absolutely would. Truly. To me, just fighting over land is just like, and then, because the sentiment's like, we're not going to back down. It's just like, I put life over, like, any sort of bravado, tradition, whatever. It just, we all die in like 5 fucking seconds. Why do stupid shit? But that's what we're doing. And so, seeing the dance round of congressional approval where if it's like, we don't have this overwhelmingly support. Again, how many Americans are out there excited about our gas prices? I'm not. And so it's like, the overall military objectives, as we've covered, have just been atrociously, they're nothing. It's just, there's nothing going on besides Donald Trump is playing commander-in-chief. And he's very literally doing, like, you've seen a frat bro go in front of his fraternity and just kind of like look around the room and like, dude, where's the energy? What am I supposed to do? That is what you're watching an 80-year-old that's been a celebrity his whole life attempt to play president. But to the actual legalities, which there are none, nobody respects the law, words are naturally defined, precedent's all bullshit, and nobody listens to anything. But there's a 60-day period before congressional approval is needed for quote-unquote actual war, and so we have just some sort of legal termination, but he can redeclare this, whatever, and then there's no actual ceasing to this conflict. There's a huge naval blockade. Like, what the fuck is that? And so it's just like, again, there is no respect for the Constitution or for law in the United States of America, and I'm putting the biggest blame and emphasis on the people, the lazy, pathetic, fucking hardworking Americans that, geez, it's Friday, time to kick the feet up, watch Scotty Scheffler play some golf, and then, just kind of like sit around and bitch, I don't know, until Monday shows up, and then do the same shit the next week. And so that's what I have for the conclusion of our trading log this week. And I think there is nothing else. So with that being said, it is 5:42 on Friday, May 1st, and we will check in later.